What is good, my people? We are live with another stream. Um, um back to talk to the people. I'm not gonna be on here long. Just wanted to let the people know I got a new video coming up on the backup channel, the Forecast Radio 24. And you might want to go subscribe because I'm gonna live stream I'm gonna premiere the episode because they probably will take this one off too, because this one is worse than the last one, so I'm not sure if they're gonna give me a strike for it or whatever. But I'm on here letting people know that go to the Forecast Radio 24 is in the description. All right, so go there and subscribe because the new video will be up in probably like another hour or so. As soon as I can get it up. It's going on time to work. Yeah, I ain't here long. I want to take some calls and talk to the people too. So the number is right there on the screen for anybody to call in. I'm gonna give it some time, man. What's going on with you? Time to work? But yeah, as YouTube, they took the last video down, and I gotta find a way to get these files and make them smaller, and we can just skip past YouTube, and I just send them straight to the people or whatever. But anyway, if anybody want to call in, the number is right there on the screen. It's 804-601-4015. A lot of people have something to say, but anytime you tell them to call in, they never really do. But now is your chance to if you got a problem with what I say, or if anything I say is wrong, now is your chance to challenge it. But anyway, on the new video that's about to come up in a few minutes, and probably like another hour on the backup channel, you know, um, I discussed a lot of real things. We got to start protecting ourselves, protecting our community, right? Because right now, you know, well, for the last couple hundred years, right, none of us have been protected down to our babies. And yeah, exactly. But, we have to start protecting, you know, our children, right? Because, one story, this, white guy, I'm pretty sure some people heard about it, but the guy, was literally raping, molesting a little boy for years. And, they arrested him, they charged him with a crime, but they ended up letting this man go, or this white boy go. And, he was in charge of a daycare. But the issue is, we don't have our own to control, right? We don't have a way to punish him, right? We can't let outsiders come in and harm us in our community. And they have a sick mentality, and they have done sick things that we can never imagine. And if we can't put our issues to the side to do what we got to do, yeah, it's doing me crazy over here. Hold on 1 second. But yeah, if we don't do what we have to do, then that we're gonna keep suffering the same fate. Now, the issue is a lot of us make excuses why not to address the real problem, why not to address the real issue. And really, like I said, time and time again, that is born out of fear. And time and time again, we find ourselves asking questions like, should can you be pro-black and date outside of your race? Right now, it's different for us because we're in a different position than anybody else. In my opinion, if you want to date outside of your race, then destroy the system first. Because at the end of the day, it's creating a lot of problems in the system. Because if it ever comes a time where you really have to challenge the system, are you going to challenge, your partner? How is your kids going to feel? How are they going to identify? Now, with America, that's why Europeans have always passed, well, not always, but they passed so many laws about having children interracially. And, this is nothing personal against, biracial people, but this is just how it's played out in the system, right? You look at Haiti, where the mulatto population, they felt more so identified with their white slave owner parents and felt that they should be in a position of power. And although they shouldn't be seen as Negroes, right, the Negroes should want to be servants to them. But it can be different, right? Because, we kind of talked about it a little bit on the last part. It's different based off of which place colonized you, because the French, they more so claimed the children, the product of rape, than anywhere else. And the British didn't really claim their children. They just put them in the field. Well, most times, put them in the house, and they would rape them even though they were their own children. Right? This is the sick mentality, these slave owners have. And while what's going on, Flame Nocturnal? Shit, I'm just on here for a minute. I'm waiting for the new video to finish. It should be up in probably like another hour. So, everybody make sure y'all go to the Forecast Radio 2 after this show, because I'm going to premiere it. I'm pretty sure YouTube is going to take it down. But, what I was saying with as far as interracially dating, it complicates things, right? And here in America, right, because the British weren't so accepting of their slave children, the product of rape, they, treated them just like Negroes. So in a lot of cases, that's what they identify with. So, the whole thing is complicated. And, when it comes to us today, because dating interracially, then we start having questions like, where does biracial people stand? Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I just came back to talk to the people for a little bit. And you can call in or whatever. The number right there on the screen, 804-601-4015. But here it was a little bit different, and they identify more so with their black side. And I'm not trying to say like, oh yeah, well, race mixing is this and that, but in the system, it complicates your position. All right, it's not our fault that we are at war. We didn't come and kidnap ourselves, but we have to start being strategic. But not only that, we have to start practicing self-love. Oh yeah, definitely. You can call in. We have to start. It's more so about self-love, right? We look at what we've been through here in this country, in this system, right? Like me as a black man, I should be giving black women, way more the benefit of the doubt than anyone else, just based off their trauma and their conditioning alone, right? If you have a problem with it, then you want that should make you want to destroy the system that much more, right? If you feel like black women aren't up to standard for you, right? But we got to understand that we all have some form of trauma, right? They have to accept, what it is. Well, definitely, definitely. But then at the same time, right, it gets complicated because, right, like the whole Nick Cannon situation, you know, uh, now Nick Cannon, should we be caping for Nick Cannon because, people will say, has he actually ever dated a black woman? Now you would say a mixed woman is black or whatever, and that's what complicates it, right? We got to have clear definitions. Now it's nothing personal. It's just a clear definition. Either they're in or they're out. You have to have, to me, you have to have two black parents, right? It doesn't make you no more or no less or nothing. But, with the whole Nick Cannon situation, right? There's so many people who say, we have the light, bright kind of image. And that goes back to us being beat in the head with the European beauty of standard. Now we do have to start addressing certain issues like this, just as a community. But it does go both ways. Yeah, Nick Cannon, I ain't even watched this show. I seen he had, a Jewish guy on there. I ain't even try to watch it. But, they're saying because he's called them animals that was racist. Now they have to find some kind of way to call us racist or hateful, just to discount anything that they, as if that would discount Jim Crow and slavery and all of that, because Nick Cannon said they're animals. But yeah, they made him apologize. But the thing that Nick Cannon has to realize is that in this system that we live in, that reflects on all of us. That reflects on every one of us. So now they expect, for if one of us was to speak out and say something, right now we have to, cower and apologize and make sure we don't offend anyone. But we have been the group trying not to offend anyone for the longest time. And how has that worked out for us? We've always been that whole forgiving. Well, they can threaten you. They can't make you do anything, but they can threaten you, right? They can, and it doesn't matter how much money Nick Cannon has at the end of the day. These are nothing but pieces of paper with their face on it. We don't control like natural resources. That's like the real money. But, they can threaten him financially, or even worse, they can do whatever they want to do because, they're in power, right? We think they go by their own rules, right? That's why I really don't be tripping on YouTube, because we think they'll go by the rules that they set out, but the rules aren't aren't for them. The rules are for you. Like, why do you think they passed all those laws about interracial dating? They were for black men not to date white women. Meanwhile, they was raping black women at will. Yeah, well, all they had to do was say, you're fired, and Nick Cannon was done. But the thing is, we as a community have to have Nick Cannon's back. Had he have not apologized and had he lost everything, right, would the black community have been there to pick him up? Now, all of this goes to like all of this division that we have. Yeah, I'm sure he does have threats on his life. But they hate hearing about their history. We're supposed to just shut up and be good Negroes. Now, I don't know if y'all seen what Terry Crews had to say about it, but certainly people like him put us in a position where the dominant society use him and say, well, look, this Negro right here thinks we're doing a good thing, right? They use the Frederick, not Frederick Douglass, but the Booker T. Washington argument. Let's just not challenge racism, right? If they lynch you, don't fight back. They just got you. But let's not cause up a stir. Let's not give them a reason. But they don't need a reason. You are the reason. And that's why it's important to have like the black family where we needed it. Well, yeah, you can't criticize them anywhere in the world. And why do you think every video that I have talked about, what the Jewish community have done, they have taken off YouTube, right? And not like I said anything hateful, but you know what it is? The things they have done is so hateful that you talking about it makes you seem like the bad guy because they just want you to shut up and go along with it. Yeah, or and they can and shouldn't have had to say a word. But apparently Professor Griff got his own issue with them as well already. But that's gonna keep happening until we have our own outlets, right? And we talk about this all the time. Like when YouTube takes all of my videos, right? There's no alternative for us to go to, and there's nothing stopping us from making it. But we just have to do that. But we feel like we don't have trust, and that's why I feel like topics like interracial dating is important, not because out of hate or anything, but community starts in the home, right? If you're looking at parents who are color struck, right, from something that doesn't even look like you, how you gonna feel about yourself and other people that look like you? And it's just deeper than just sticking with your own, right? We're in a system where we've been deprived economically. We have to stay together economically to raise our families. We don't have any other choice, right? We're not in charge of our food. We have to put each other in a position where we can work on our strengths, right? That's kind of what a community is. But all of that starts with developing the children, and the developing the children starts in the home, and that starts with a healthy relationship, right? A lot of people, well, some people mention it on one of the shows I did, like young black men not knowing how to load up guns and clean their weapons properly. But if you had all that in the house, that would be taken care of. But they understood that, community does start in the home, and that's why it's been nothing but an attack on the black family. I'm not really sure. Yeah, but the point is, right? They have a system to where even the people in that position feel like they have to bow down or they're going to starve. But we all feel like that at the end of the day. There are far too many of us who do feel like the white man's ice is colder. And we do have a sick mentality. Now, I see it as Stockholm Syndrome. We all have Stockholm Syndrome. Some of us more severe than others. It's a house phone. It's a house phone, but it's a Google number, but it go to a house phone. Um, yeah, but I see all of that as Stockholm syndrome. But not being in control of our kids' mind or whatever, it's easy for them to beat that into us like that. All right, so yeah, and anybody can call in because I had people saying trying to challenge me, saying what I'm saying is wrong, and also is Nick Cannon saying they are? Is Nick Cannon calling them savage and animals? Was that racist? Now there's no denying their actions are straight savage, like, and you notice, right, the things they're mad about. They don't even deny, being stowed away in the Caucasus Mountains and not having the power of the sun, and all of that stuff. That's not what they're mad about. They're not challenging any of those facts either. But as much as they play dumb, that goes to show you they understand this system way more than we do. Now, coming from, more so fractured homes and a place that definitely does everything they can to stunt black masculinity and black femininity, right? We don't respond the way that we're supposed to be responding. They did that to take that warrior spirit out of us. And they understood exactly what they were doing. And now you have, people like him, especially if you say you a Hebrew Israelite, right? That you would have to go against your actual beliefs to not stand on what you're saying. And just the fact that him bringing up Farrakhan's name, they have always hated Farrakhan, but they will never debate him like that. They won't give him a chance to debate on some racism stuff. And there's a reason for that. And there's a reason because black people, if one thing about it, we will go out of the way to say, well, no, I didn't mean anything violent about it. No, I didn't mean anything like that. No, I mean whatever I mean. Right? I'm I'm American, right? This is my American spirit coming out of me. I'm not telling you nothing different than George Washington told you. But we are in a country that said, you know what? I'm not paying taxes. By the way, taxes that they were legitimately owed, right? It's not like they just raised the taxes for no reason, right? They America asked the British to send all of these troops so they can exterminate people. And then when it was time to pay the debt, they decided to go to war. Now they go to war for that, while another man can come into your home, right, and rape your mama, rape your daughter, rape your wife right in front of you and your whole family, and you can't do nothing, or give her to a visitor, right? They was willing to say liberty and death for paying an extra 3 cents in tax or whatever it is. So what are you willing to say stop killing me? But they have to beat that out of you. And it's important not to have a strong masculine role model, that warrior kind of deity, that you're not putting up with stuff like that, that you're not going to cower. Because if all you see is the biggest, strongest cowering down, right, that has a psychological effect. And the trick is, right, there were probably far more people who weren't going to bow down. But we only hear about the people who do, bow down, right? We know, for example, we know about stories like Amistad when they say, give us free. But, you talk about, black marriage or whatever. I talk about the slave named Madison Washington. Yeah, it's no telling how many people are actually watching it. And YouTube, like, is really watching my shows, like, for real. But, I'm kind of flattered by that. But, there's a reason why we know about Amistad, and they say, give us free. They had to go to American court where, white people felt, you know, justified and, angelic for letting these people have what's naturally theirs, their right to live as free human beings, right? But that same year, 1841, I always tell a story about Madison Washington. This brother already escaped slavery up to Canada one time, but his wife was still enslaved. So this brother armed himself, put, machetes and knives and any kind of weapon inside his coat. So he went back down to Virginia to, yeah, I find it weird that, as soon as my subscriptions start going up, I go from 1,000 views to like 300. But, it's all good. They can't stop the people from actually watching it. But, this brother went back down to Virginia to get his wife out of slavery. But he got caught. But, he still had his weapons. So he broke out of his chains once they threw him on the boat, right? He freed other slaves and they killed all the, slavers on board. And they sailed the ship all the way to Africa, and he freed 100 and some people. Now, how you gonna hear about stories like him? Even stories like Harriet Tubman, right? They try to whitewash her story. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. I still haven't watched that story yet, and I'm gonna ask you, like, I'm gonna ask y'all, do y'all think I should watch, the movie Harriet or not? Because I'm like on some, like, I don't even want to watch it. But the way that they, you know, now you got people like Kanye West, just trying to make a buzz, disrespect Harriet Tubman's name. Now, let you say something about Andrew Jackson or, the pedophile Thomas Jefferson. One of their pedophile, rapist, criminal thug founding fathers, right? They'll go to war to keep their statues up. And this brother is like it or not on either side, this brother disrespect, this warrior, Harriet Tubman, who probably would have shot him in the face if they was leaving together. You know what I'm saying? And I can't say that, but you know, oh, it's all good, my brother. No, no, I haven't heard about that. Yeah, call in, Jermaine. But this brother disrespecting this warrior, right? That should never be allowed. But because we don't really have that structure, that strong structure from right, and I look at the brother Medgar Evers and the relationship with his wife. They knew what they were gonna face, and I heard some people saying, well, maybe people were threatening, yeah, Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey. I got to give my props to Ida B. Wells, right? She she was Rosa Parks. You know what I'm saying? She didn't give up her. She she was a warrior. She was the first one to expose the lynch law, right? How they knew white women be lying. They just did it because they was jealous of the black community. Believe it or not, after freedom, the black community had no other choice but to support each other. So they were doing all right. But the poor white people, right? And by the way, they're the ones who had all the skills, right? And they were making less money, but they were getting the jobs for first. But yeah, the black workers, they were the ones who was getting all the jobs. But yeah, it's yeah, they have to, you know, make sure we don't see strong leaders. That's why they're in control of, what we see, the images we see. The internet changed the game, but obviously they can put blocks on the internet. But anybody who's using it, yeah, exactly. Because the things Harriet Tubman did was greater than many men, you know, many men, many women. And you brought up Marcus Garvey. When Marcus Garvey, right before he came up, the black women was getting tired of everything that was going on, and they said, if y'all don't do something, we gonna do something, right? And then that's kind of around the time Marcus Garvey started coming up, and that's a big reason why he had that whole women's movement. But all of these reasons are important. All of these reasons are reasons why it's important to make sure that we are doing everything we can to love peace and family structure, right? And I was talking about Medgar Evers and his family, right? And he knew what was gonna come, right? And Nick Cannon's children, might have got threatened and he was forced to apologize or something. But Medgar Evers knew what to expect because they was bombing their houses and everything, like no problem. And he trained him and his wife trained their children to be prepared for an attack at any time. And unfortunately, they did get the brother, but the fact that they had a family structure that was designed, that was prepared to take what it had to take. They was prepared to do what they had to do. And a lot more of us need to have that mentality, that mindset. We have no other choice but to put our differences to the side. And by the way, anybody can call in, and the number is right there on the screen. Is 804-601-4015. Right, but all of that has to do with being together and following the code, being on code, right? It has nothing to do with hate, right? They try to convince us that self-love is really hate. That's why anytime we say, we need to love ourselves, right? This is where we're from. This is what we've been through. They said, "Whoa, stop. That's hate speech." You understand? Because when we start loving ourselves, they know what the greatest threat to their society is. Everybody else trying to assimilate into it. We cannot ever assimilate into it, no matter what we think. And we always got to remember that white superiority is defined by black inferiority. And when we're trained as young children to understand this, even if we have to go to their school system, which we should never have to do, our kids will be prepared to handle whatever it is, right? In fact, they should be in a position to challenge their teachers, right? When they teach them Christopher Columbus discovered America. Oh, you mean the murderer, rapist that killed countless people and mutilated countless people, right? They want our kids in their school, right? And that's something that we should be in control of, whether they go or not. But if they go, they need to be prepared. Because we got to learn that, they understood being in control of your kid's mind is what it's going to take. That's why they banned the slave trade. Yeah, I seen that the young girl sent to jail for not doing her homework at a time when they said don't send kids to jail, especially for dumb reasons. But, there's nobody there that will make sure that young girl doesn't go to jail because we ain't on code enough to be ready to challenge the system, right? That's all it's waiting on is black unity, right? The black, the black Messiah is black unity. So they're gonna do everything to prevent the rise of the black Messiah, right? You think you're on code, they're gonna put somebody in there and try to make a feud. But the goal is the same thing at the end of the day. It's not one person. You cannot destroy one person. But that's why we have to be aware of these organizations that are able to survive. Because the organizations that was really about black power, about black family, they were destroyed as soon as it was created. Right? When the Black Panthers started talking about guns, it was destroyed. When Martin Luther King, who they always love to use, right, start talking about going to get his money, to go and get our money, he got shot in the face. But all through all of these times, we was arguing about how to do it, which way to go. We was never on the same page, right? Somehow Europeans learned how to do that. At the Berlin conference, they sat down and said, you know what, instead of killing each other over, the trade of these human beings and taking of all this land, we just gonna split it up, sit at the table and divide it up. Now we are saying we want to be in control of ourselves. We want to govern ourselves. We want to control our food, our laws, our policies. So how come we can't have our own conference? Now, I'm not going to lie to you. The dominant society is always going to come. They're always going to come. Because they need to keep you in the position that you're in. Right? They would have left us alone if they could have built America on their own, but they kept dying. So they had to come and run beg for us, to help them. And this whole system wasn't just developed overnight. It was a whole process. And once we do what we have to do, we can destroy it overnight. Nobody knows that. Now, of course, not everybody is going to be on the same side, on the same mindset. You just have to have a critical mass amount of people. We just have to learn how to put our tribal stuff to the side to stay focused on the mission. Um, well, I mean, I would, but I can't tell anybody else what to do with their kids or nothing. I'm saying make sure they're prepared, even if you do send them into the world, right? We have to, first educate ourselves, then educate our children, because the key is to instill the warrior spirit back into the next generation, right? We are the generation that's going to get us over the hill, right? But we have to set our children up in a position to where they can build their dynasty, right? But learn from mistakes to never make these mistakes again. And there's a reason why they try to keep us dumb, because we make the same mistakes over and over and over. And we don't know that, in 1933, the same thing happened in 2017. But once we start knowing that, and we know the things that were successful, because we get the image like, everything we've done here has been failure and misery. But we don't realize we've been the only people to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Now, ironically, it was at a time where they literally made it illegal for us to marry other people. And it was at a time where they hated us so much that they didn't even want to take our money. But the only difference now is, right, we believe they don't hate us that much, but their actions don't say that. Right? They just don't openly say, nigga, no nigga pies here. They don't openly say that no more. So now we spending money with somebody who hate us. And that's why I personally would prefer somebody who's racist to, just speak out. So, I don't support them no more. But it was a time where we had no other choice but to have black families and to support black businesses. And do you know what happened? We were the only group in America to ever pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Now, America, like including the government, attacked those places in those cities, and we weren't prepared to defend ourselves. This time around, we have to be prepared to defend ourselves. We can't be acting surprised when they show up. But it was the pride in being black, the black identity, knowing that we had to stay in our circle. Not trying to, impress someone else to fit in. Not trying to assimilate, because they knew it won't no way in hell they was gonna ever be assimilated. You know, whether Nick Cannon was right or wrong, he apologized now. So now we again are coming from a place of, you know, trying to fit into their society, a society that has always kept us out of it. But we fought tooth and nail, right, to be in their schools. We fought tooth and nail to go to their stores. And I can't say that all blame on the ancestors, because a lot of that stuff was just flat out destroyed, right, by terrorism. And when I say terrorism, I include like the Highway Act and all of that kind of stuff. Right. Integration, I wouldn't even say integration. Integration was more so of a counter move by them. Right. That's why you see programs like How to Sell to the Negro or whatever it was in the 1950s. Because they say, we had an untapped market here. Right. The black family, they're making X amount of dollars, we about to wipe them clean. They knew what was about to happen. And they said, these Negroes will buy anything to fit into the society. And that's what happened. But we can't ever forget that we are the only group of people to ever pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. No other group can say that. Every other group got handouts by the government. And we know where the government got the funds to give out those handouts. And don't ever let them tell you otherwise. Because when they was giving out all that land, you black people weren't allowed to get any of it when they was giving those land grants out. What's going on, Melanin? Always, and y'all can call in. The new video up on the Forecast Radio 24. I'm just on here. It should be up soon. I'm gonna premiere it because they probably will take it down. You know, because we're talking about some crazy stuff. But if we did know the times where we were successful, and people like the black conservatives try to use this as a talking point. They use that dude Thomas Sowell as a talking point. But what they always conveniently leave out was, how those cities was literally burnt to the ground. They just conveniently skip over that part, and how the black community was routinely attacked, and how acts were routinely passed to destroy them economically. And then, when integration came, um, it was really Thurgood Marshall who had a lot to do with that. Thurgood Marshall had the opportunity because he won the case, right? Before that, it was C. Plessy versus Ferguson, right? Equal, but separate, but equal, right? Even though we all know it wasn't equal at all. And this is what we have to understand looking at our, you know, at their generation. It wasn't equal. They were in schools, small as shacks with no heat, no air, right? The teachers had to bring their own books, right? And I don't know where they were getting the money to buy books. They had to teach how to Jet magazine. And Jet magazine did have like actual black history, but they didn't have textbooks. They were fighting for equal funding. And when Thurgood Marshall actually won the case, they were willing to give equal funding to not allow black kids to go to white schools. Right now, whether they would have did it, I don't know. Right? Obviously, they had to fight to get in their schools anyway, so they could have just fought for the equal funding. But Thurgood Marshall said no. The only way they could be equal was to go to school with white children, so they can have the same opportunities. Now, Thurgood Marshall, I don't believed in the power of black schools, black colleges, the black network, right? Us creating our own businesses, right? Sending our kids to black schools. He felt the only way to be equal was to go to their schools. Now, not only did it hurt the black students, it hurt black teachers. And still to this day, it's hurting black teachers. And most of our teachers were white women. Now, it's just a point of what are we going to do? But, you know, this whole story of interracial dating goes all the way back, though, right? Because you have like the story of like Jack Johnson, right? Jack Johnson is like the whole history of America summed up, right? This black man, right? He was with a black woman, and this particular black woman happened to cheat on him. So he said, no more black women. And he started messing with, all white girls. Now, they already hated him because the world heavyweight champion was a black man. And at that time, especially at that time, the world heavyweight champion meant, nobody in the world could mess with you. And you have this big black man knocking out all these white dudes and then having sex with white girls. Right? And the black community condemned them for that. Right? You have people like W.E. Du Bois talking about, you just stick to your own. Like a lot of the people in the black community was against them. But this dude didn't care. Right? And that's why they had all these great white hopes. Right? And you can call like they he called Donald Trump the great white hope, and you can call him that because all the great white hopes ended up losing. Right? They all got knocked out. But just because this brother had to make it a spectacle, was beating up all these white men, messing with all these white women, there was no way they was gonna let this brother live. Right? And this brother was rich then, like we could say Nick Cannon. I would say we would consider him rich. Jack Johnson was rich, super rich then, but they took everything from that man. And apparently, he said he dove, and I believe it. He took a dive on the last fight because they put him in exile. They weren't gonna let him box no more because they come up with any kind of law to force you to do something. Right? Muhammad Ali, he one of the few black athletes that said, nope, I only want black women. He did nothing but uplift black women, uplift the black community. They had to take his title away from him because could nobody beat him. But at the same time, they thought that his mind wasn't there. Well, he'll tell you, red birds fly with red birds, blue birds fly with blue birds, all of that. And like I said, it's not necessarily that. It's the fact that we are in the position that we are in. And if you want to, date somebody outside of your race that bad, you have to destroy the system. Because at the end of the day, no matter what they say, every white person in America, no doubt, but you could say every white person in the world has benefited off the system, is benefiting off the system. And at the end of the day, they may not agree with, black people being killed or, certain discrimination. But do you think they want a system designed to protect them to be destroyed? That is not what they're about. They're about survival. And obviously, it's coming to a time where, the population is thinning out for them. And, every time in history, every time, right before the slave trade happened, right in the 1400s, you had the Black Plague or whatever it was, and they was almost died out. They almost Europe, everybody in Europe almost died, and some black people showed up and showed them how to take baths and stuff, right? Told them you don't have to drown throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know. And how do they thank them? Right? You have like, here we are 600 years later. You know, when they were here in America, they were about to die out. And then, you know, the native people say, y'all don't have to eat each other, You can eat these berries and, you can get this fish. Right? And how do they thank them? Right? By enslaving, many of the melanated ones, murdering, many of the other ones. But when we are in this situation, we haven't really tried to do that for each other. Right? We haven't really tried to go out of the way to save each other. Because at the end of the day, we are all we got. All right, gonna take the call. Call from four. Call from. Hello.
Yo, forecast.
Yo, what's going on?
Slang Turner, what's up, man?
What's going on, Slang Turner?
No, man, just chilling, just listening to your program, just chill. So I'm just waiting for my the wireless phone's charge. Just want to just call in and to show some love, man, and just take part of the conversation.
Oh yeah, man, definitely, man. How you feel about it?
Well, my stance on interracial marriage is that, I mean, it's a difficult one because I would say, like, depends, like, it's in the UK, right? So just from working here for a few months, and where I'm based, right, there's hardly any black people, right? So I do understand, like, when black people or black men, in my case, I'm a black male, when you are pro-black, dating people outside of your race, you might see it as a contradiction, right? You go against, like, your values and your beliefs. But as you were saying earlier on, like, when you have, like, let's say you're dating a white woman, right? So you guys have a kid. So your kid wouldn't be black anymore, right? Unless the child identifies as black. So they'll how can I say? They'll gravitate towards their black side. But my personal experience, because my family, I got a cousin, right? He's married to a white woman. Despite, this white woman always, like, being around us, black people, and pretending to, like, support and support black people and their cause and stand up for racism. In some occasions, she's made, like, racist comments, and she's even used, like, slur, like, once, like, she was in an argument with my cousin, and she was like, "You're a nigger," and I was like, "Whoa, yeah, all you niggers are the same," and I was like, "Yo." So, we jumped in and we were asking her, like, "Yeah, but do you know that's a slur?" "Yeah, but yeah, it's never been an issue before." Because the thing is, some of us black men, right, we give white women the pass to use the word nigger, right? So, but the way she used it wasn't like, how we would use it in, like, rap music. So it's just the hard again. And so my point is that some white people mistake physical attraction and everything that comes with a black man or black person and their beliefs that are ingrained in them because they grew up probably in an environment where they used to, this stereotypical things about us black people that, we're like, we got the big tool, we put brutes, we're athletic, um, with violence and all of that. So what happens is, because it's external influences, they probably go around other towns. They get to meet black people. Maybe the perception changes, but racism is basically programmed in their software. So for me, is I I really don't. My stance is I don't really think it's something like we can we really mix. At the end of the day, I think our software, DNA, and everything is programmed differently. We see things differently. We know we how can I say, we digest things differently, and I don't think as even if like people we are human beings, I think we're just genetically made different, and I don't think we mix. That's my stance on it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how you think about it. If this probably sounds a bit, you know, harsh, but for me personally, I just don't think that's something that in the long term works out. Because if you have biracial kids, but it's supposed to be half and half, how come like biracial kids still whenever there's a problem they'll call you N word, or they always ask you where you from, what's your background. Had you been a white kid, regardless of what country they're from, first thing they'll see is a white kid. They'll never ask you, well, where your parents are from. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what's your stance on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. What you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's the thing is, right? They do fear like the whole genetic thing as well. You know what I'm saying? And they understand the whole black gene thing. But like you were saying, we kind of are made different. Like medicines that they give, don't affect us the same way that they affect them, right? But they be injecting us with their, I call it poisons or whatever. But
Yeah.
it don't affect us the same way as it affect them. We have a different makeup. Like you were saying.
Yeah, definitely, man. Um, Also, I had a question for you, right?
Uh huh.
So, on this channel and most pro-black channels, right, we don't talk about like unity, not just in the U.S., but throughout Europe, South America, some parts of Asia where, you know, um, indigenous black people live, like, the people out in Andaman Islands and some parts of the Philippines, Singapore, where else do you have Malaysia? There's indigenous black people that have been there for hundreds and thousands of years. But my question is, for example, when they created Liberia, right, was supposed to be a country where, um, it was supposed to be a country where, the ex slaves and, what they call free men of color, which is a term I hate being referred to as color. Man, I'm a black man, or you don't refer to me as with no other, terminology as a black man, or don't refer to me.
Right.
So my question is, right, fast forward in the future, the situation in Liberia really hasn't worked. So you have this division of all of these ethnic groups that are autochthonous to like to the region, and then you have the I would like to use the word that the Sambos that is sent over from the U.S. to continue to dominate in that region in the name of white people, right? So things in Liberia never really worked out, right? So my question for you is, do you think now in 2020 and beyond, if we created a state or a nation for the African diaspora, do you think it would work, or do you think it would go in the same direction as Liberia took?
Well, that's a good question. That's a real good question. Well, I personally think that it will work, but I have trust in the people. See, where Liberia went wrong, it started, as really a European colony, like for real. And
Yeah.
then, after the British got kicked out of there, right? America sent, the black people over there, and but they were still under American law, right? So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. So they didn't even start off the right way, right? Now, for us to do it right, it's not like we want to sit up there and just kick somebody off the land that they've been living in the whole time we've been here either, right? So it's just coming to the table and like talking from both sides, but we can't have the middleman like the European middleman anymore, like telling us one thing and then telling them one thing, and then we thinking like they hate us and they thinking we hate them. You know what I'm saying? We have to literally come to the table and show that we have, stuff to offer for each other. Because, if you put like our experience, the things that we know how to do in America or anywhere else in the diaspora, and then mix that with what they know how to do in Africa and mix that with the land, right? I'm pretty sure they want the European out of there. I'm pretty sure they want the Asian out of there, right? It's about having camaraderie and actually, working as a unit, you know what I'm saying? And I personally think, what I'm saying, I think it'll work because, if not, then, we might as well just kind of give up because we got to have land, or at least we got to have a nation or a military that's willing to back us up anytime we got to do whatever we got to do. You know what I'm saying? But, they just started from the whole wrong premise. We got to start, we can have like conversations and dialogue, from a perspective of where we're in charge and we're creating whatever society we want to create, right? I mean, if they let Asians in, I don't see why they would do that to us. As long as like we just have like respectful dialogue with each other.
Facts, man. I feel you on that one. Because one thing, like, talking about, like, creating a nation for African diaspora will be, you know, since the black man outside of Africa is being westernized, right? Do you think that beliefs that have been ingrained in us, like, from day one, that they, like you were talking early on about suffering from Stockholm syndrome, which, like, I do agree with you most. Um, I was referred to us as Africans, right? Us Africans, we do suffer from, even in the continent till today, because I remember when, like, in Jamaica, how can I say, the trend of, like, bleaching and, like, caking out started, right? So, in countries like Jamaica, where, let's say, 30 years ago, they were more pro-black. Now you have this westernized type of Asian trend coming into places like the Caribbean, where people don't consider dark skin to be an asset. Rather, it's something like, for them, it will be something like a liability having dark skin because, as you know, like places like Dominican Republic, they're anti-black, which is the funniest thing ever because the black people, they're against black people, right? So, uh, as you know, in the Spanish colonial time, you had the caste system, right, where you had the European Spaniard was the the top of the top, and then you had the what they call the criollos, where the Spaniards born in Latin America, right? They were second class, and then anyone below that was what they would just consider you garbage, right? So depending on what your admixture was, then you will climb up in the colonial caste system, right? So that caste system is still ingrained in places like Dominican Republic, and basically all Latin America, including Brazil. Now the problem is we've been exposed like to Western ideals, Western European ways of doing things. Do you think that as people that want to create a nation, they want to build a culture or society based on African values, and I'm talking about going back to our roots when we first came on the west side, coast of the U.S. in 1619. Do you think we would have to go back to our roots as black people and maybe just use, I would say, maybe utilize like European law for like our judicial uh, court systems and things like that? Or do you think we should just don't think that us mixing with the Western ideology and ways of doing things really, you know, mesh with what an African society or an African nation will really be in the future. What do you think about this?
Well, yeah, that's another good question. I would say that we take things that work and then leave the things that don't work. I think we should always try to find our roots and like whatever we can find about all as far back as we can go about ourselves first and foremost. And I'm pretty sure there were things like I heard. I'm not sure like which places or whatever, but like I heard it was like some places where the court system would have the male judge for the males and the female judge for the females, and then you would have one of each for a case with both of them involved. You know what I'm saying? That's not really an American thing, but that's something that could maybe be incorporated. You know what I'm saying? There are things that is America that America took from other places. But there are things in America that work. That may work for us. It's about us coming together as a council and agreeing with what does work, just looking at all the things that do work for us, and like coming up on a consensus at least. You know what I'm saying? We can vote on it, and I guess like vote a rule, but like you don't have to have an electoral college or something like that.
Yeah.
But then certain things that may do work. So it's just all about like really societies like is really built like when you come across problems, then laws get created. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just have one more thing because I don't want to like hold up the whole show. I then on the last thing I was like referring to like Western societies that I use. I would like to, especially this one for Black sisters, right? Because we've been exposed to like now it's a thing that bothers me when I see it is the standard beauty that exists in the Western world, right? So I do understand that from day one when they tell you you're dark skinned, you're ugly, or your hair's kinky, that's not nice, cover it up, braids are ghetto, and things like this, right? Um, do you think, like, for example, the trend of like in the last, I would say, I'm not that old, but in the last, let's say, 35 years, right, where black women have gone from, back in like 70s and 80s, so like using their natural hair now to using weaves and, covering up their hair. Because what would like to say on that, I seen that there was also a trend where, that the frills are coming back and there's some women, wearing their natural hair and stuff. But do you think that, that like, due to all of this exposure to races, do you think that the black woman should like go back to being what we were like 30, 40 years ago in terms of standard beauty? Or do you not see a problem with this European identity beauty issue that's going on in the black community with black
Um, well, I say this. First of all, I'm only like 32, so you can take that out. But with the question, I would say like to be honest with you, like I can't. It's tricky to say because back then they still had that kind of European beauty standard. Like when even back during the 1800s they would wear like white women like that would be considered dressing up. You know what I'm saying? Wearing the white dresses and all of that stuff. Now the thing we don't realize is as a people we actually control the trends. You know what I'm saying? Like when black women start doing that, what they was doing in the 70s, that became the trend for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like and now like just a few years ago when black women was doing that natural trend, it became a trend for everybody. But everything we do is a trend. It's just that we aren't the ones that capitalize off of it. Now, the thing that the European beauty standard does, and it affects like, men and women, right? I'm gonna keep it real, like, because as a man, right, you see, and a lot of men see sometimes black women like a light-skinned woman as beautiful, or perceive that, or that's what a black woman, I think a black man thinks is beautiful, even whether that's true or not. So she'll try to imitate that woman to impress that man, in some cases. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, there are other women who don't, and we got to understand, like, it's so complicated because, like, back in the 1600s it all started, like, because, like, they passed, all the laws about black women and their hair. They can't have their hair out, they can't, use soap and stuff like that. So, they've been, like, really been laws, and there's still laws on the books about black women natural hair at work too. So, it's like a difficult question to ask, but at the same time, we just gotta realize that we are the trendsetters, right? And we just gotta own, the trend. But like I said, like Nick Cannon had to apologize, and sometimes black women will have to, compromise at their job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So this is what I want to basically talk about. I mean, I got like so many like topics within my mind, but just we couldn't just we can have a 6-hour conversation, but that's not the point. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because the last couple of times I tried to call through the show, the connection just dropped now. So yeah, I just wanted to talk to you, have a chat with you, like, because I've been watching your show for like pretty much since it started, man. So yeah, it's cool that you're doing these lives and you're talking to the people that watch the show, and it's good to have a conversation with you, man to man, over the phone. So yeah, I just want to just call in for some love, man, and just thank you, man, for the work you do. The hour, I know you put in hours, and to put the content and then for these YouTube people just to um, you know um, your videos out. So yeah, I just want to give you a big thank you, man, for everything you do, for educating us and just keeping things 100 when it comes to black issues.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. You already know I appreciate this, man. You've been holding me down for a minute, man.
Man, I'm gonna let you, whoever wants to call in, and yeah, man. Next time you do a live, if I can, I'll call in, man, and I'll write down some topics I got. Otherwise, I'll be forgetting. But yeah, I got some more topics coming. Just a few questions to ask, and just see your opinion. All right.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate it, bro.
No problem, man. Take care.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. And yeah, I appreciate that, man. And I appreciate all of y'all for real. What's going on, brother guy? Yeah, I'm about to get off of here soon because the other video should be up like any minute now. I was just coming on here. Y'all make sure y'all go to the Forecast Radio 24. It's in the description. The new video is coming out. Pretty sure they're gonna block it. I don't even know if it's gonna be up, but I set it as a live premiere, and hopefully they don't, take it down. And yeah, it do take days to do this. Like it'll probably take like hours and hours and hours, just to make these videos. And I don't stop every single day because it's taking me a little longer to make these videos because I'm trying to finish up the book that I'm working on, the whole history of the system, about how it was created, from like the 1400s, like pretty much every year up until now, up until 2020. So, I'm trying to get that together. That's what's taking me a little longer with the videos. But if nobody else want to call in or whatever, I appreciate, everybody for coming through. I appreciate Flame Turner for calling in. And he make some pretty good points, but we just have to get over the self-hate thing, this you know European beauty standard that has been beaten into everybody, right? And now we have this, for the first time, white women are being called out with this Karen phenomenon. But we as black people, both black men and black women, do it. We let white women play both sides of the fence, right? They benefit from white supremacy and from being the minority. They call themselves a minority, even though they are the majority. Voter block, majority group, but they benefit the most from being a minority. And we allow them to play both sides of the fence. Like my brother said, we allow them to call us niggas, and we think it's cool. And you can't allow them to disrespect, you know, because they won't allow you to disrespect. They are in a position of power and they can lord it over you. And at any time, they can take it all away from you. Right? In the new video, I talked about, a brother about to go to the NFL, but just because he was 2 weeks away from going to the NFL, but just because a white woman hit him up, she just accused him and he lost everything just like that. Now, I'm not saying it can happen both ways, but you know what? Right? That white woman, how many bodies in history has she been responsible for? She was responsible for Black Wall Street, responsible for Rosewood. The first race riot in North America had something to do with a white woman, right, getting baptized. So, we have to learn our history, learn what, got us in this position, and then stop doing the things that got us in this position, right? We need to be better and then teach our children how to be better, teach our children how to love each other, right? How to treat each other, right? Show our sons, how a man treats their mother so they know how to treat their wife, and show daughters how somebody treats their father so they know how to treat their husband and what to expect. These are things that we don't have any other choice but to do if we're going to get out of the situation that we're in. But, I appreciate all of y'all, man. Make sure y'all go. Yeah. Make sure y'all go to the Forecast Radio 24. It's in the description. I'm going to see y'all over there. It should be up like in a few minutes. So I appreciate y'all, man. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.